Super Lucky Disaster Man. Chapter 78, Gia's Death and Dazai's Arrival. Andre Gi looked at Komaeda Nagito, who was lying on the ground, and the gun that had fallen out of his coat pocket, feeling deeply conflicted. When you're not planning to fire, you put the safety on, that's the most basic common sense. He never thought he'd live to see such a foolish mistake. He had fought in many battles, and, to die at peace, he chose formidable opponents. It had been a long time since he saw such a rookie mistake, and he found himself a bit unaccustomed. Komaeda Nagito, on the other hand, adapted well. He had placed his gun casually in his coat pocket, wagering his luck. The coat wasn't buttoned, and after Komaeda Nagito was hit, the coat had moved several times due to inertia, leading to an accidental discharge. Everything had been fine until that point. But this time, things went wrong. As Komaeda Nagito coughed, he couldn't help but laugh. The shot looked severe, but in reality, it wasn't worse than the one he got today in front of Yosano Akiko, where he had a bullet wound. At least after the blood entered his windpipe, he coughed it up without it affecting his ability to speak. Ha, ha ha ha. After Komaeda Nagito fell, his head bled a little, and the blood brushed past his right eye, dyeing his eyelashes red, adding an aggressive gleam to his already wild eyes. Fantastic. Was that foresight just now? Andre Gia's movements were sudden. He had been holding Komaeda Nagito from behind, but it was clear that he had suddenly loosened his grip just before the gunfire. Recalling what Oda Sakanosuke had said about Andre Gi and his ability, Komaeda Nagito finally confirmed that this person who survived was indeed Andre Gi. This discovery made Komaeda Nagito's blood boil. For a moment, he almost forgot his purpose, to clean up an environment for Oda Sakanosuke to write in peace. He seemed to forget what Andre Gi had just done to him, and couldn't stop admiring his opponent. His voice was still trembling in pain, but his spirit was high. Truly amazing. Cough, cough. Isn't this just my misfortune at work? Ha 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 ha. Andre Gi frowned, his anger, which had abated somewhat, flared up once again. So he knows about my ability and that it involves foresight. It seemed like he had specifically come for Mimic. I misjudged him. Although Gi had no idea what his opponent was relying on to come up the mountain alone, he wasn't planning to ask. The guy's mental state seemed a bit off. Maybe there was no plan at all, just pure lunacy leading him to do this. Besides, earlier, the other guy didn't even admit to having an ability, so asking was useless. It'd be better to just kill him and see if any last-minute revelations occurred. When it's time to die, people tend to get honest. Andre Gi pulled his pistol from its holster and aimed it at Komaeda Nagito. Komaeda Nagito finally stopped laughing, but there was still a smile on his face as he tilted his head to look at Andre Gi. Listening to his heavy, labored breathing through the pain and seeing his body stiffen, it was clear that he couldn't move much at the moment. Andre Gi didn't understand how Komaeda Nagito still had the leisure to talk just now. If he were in the same condition, he'd be holding back the pain and trying to pick up his gun again. But after all, it wasn't his job to educate his enemies. He just felt that it was incredibly unfair for his men to have died because of someone who was afraid of pain yet mentally unhinged, making him feel a sense of absurdity. Now, he would use his enemy's blood to wash away the humiliation. He pressed the trigger. Click. At the unexpected sound, Andre Gi was stunned. His pistol had jammed. No matter how unreliable Komaeda Nagito seemed, even Andre Gi realized something was wrong. A gun is crucial for a soldier, and he maintained it every day. He even inspected it today before heading up the mountain. He had found nothing wrong. Yet now, it jammed. And then there was the landslide. After decades without incident, something happened today. Oh, and earlier, the gun fired at the other guy. At first, he thought it was because his opponent hadn't put on the safety, but after tallying up all the accidents today, Andre Gi realized that something wasn't quite right. If he hadn't known to dodge and push at the right time, the bullet would have gone past the target and hit someone else. One accident could be a coincidence, but a chain of accidents. Andre Gi tensed up. He pressed the trigger a few more times towards Komaeda Nagito, finding that the gun is still jammed, so he decided to change direction to test it. Now aware that the opponent might be linked to these accidents, he dared not approach as casually as before. Who knew what might happen? He suspected that his opponent's ability might increase the likelihood of accidents, and the previous kidnapping only succeeded because the opponent hadn't yet reacted. Given the opponent's novice-like behavior, this assumption seemed plausible. Andre Guy had just aimed in a direction, but before pulling the trigger, a foresight image appeared. In the foresight, he managed to fire a shot, but the impact triggered an explosion somewhere, followed by a chain reaction. The ground beneath his feet erupted. Andre Guy froze, the hairs on his neck standing on end. Why are there so many bombs here? Is that another coincidence? Komaeda Nagito, wanting an easier way down the mountain, disregarded the danger and moved closer to the stone steps that led to the Western Mansion. In other words, they were not far from the Western Mansion. There were even traces of landslide debris due to the heavy rain, just beside the steps. After all, Andre Guy had taken quite a risk when he came out. Once he confirmed the area was clear, he headed straight upward. The accident site wasn't that far to begin with. And upon noticing Komaeda Nagito's movements, he deliberately moved closer to the stone steps. As a result, their current position wasn't exactly safe. Andre Guy considered and couldn't help but wonder, could the bombs here have been dislodged from the mansion during the landslide? If so, it would make sense that when he was in a lower position, with the landslide coming from above, debris from the mansion could have been swept to this location. Thinking this over, even Andre Guy couldn't stay calm. Why didn't any of the bombs explode along the way? The quality must be incredible. Were they all just waiting for this one shot to trigger an explosion and kill him? Andre Guy became extra cautious, refraining from attempting to fire. After what he had seen, there was no point in wasting bullets unnecessarily. He even suspected that if he fired a shot into the sky, it could hit something and set off a bomb. So that's how it is. Andre Guy looked at the weak, pitiful, yet resilient Komaeda Nagito with wary eyes, no longer holding a trace of disdain. This is basically Final Destination, being targeted, surrounded by dangers from all directions, with every move potentially a step toward doom. In this situation, his subordinates didn't exactly die due to an accident. This was another kind of battlefield. Andre Guy said with a complex tone, "This is your ability, huh? Now that I think about it, they didn't die in vain." Komaeda Nagito. Andre Guy's thoughts moved fast, and to Komaeda Nagito, it seemed like he had just lifted his gun and suddenly came out with this incomprehensible statement. But Komaeda Nagito's mind worked well. Despite his current pain and foggy consciousness, he quickly understood what the other meant. Komaeda Nagito gritted his teeth, struggling to sit up, and spoke with difficulty. "Though I don't know what you saw. But, for you to think so highly of me, I really don't deserve to be called an ability user. Whether you admit it or not doesn't matter. I want to finish you off right here, then go find Oda Sakanosuke. Ha ha ha. If it means I can keep you from bothering Oda-san while he chases his deadlines, then I'll gladly accept total defeat. So it's because of Oda Sakanosuke, huh? I see, you must be a friend of Oda Sakanosuke. If I kill you, will Oda Sakanosuke break his no-killing principle?" Andre Guy wasn't actually much of a talker, but in front of Oda Sakanosuke, he could chat about Mimic's ambitions, trying to pull Oda Sakanosuke in. However, when it came to anyone else, he had little to say. Only Komaeda Nagito really shook Andre Guy, especially since it involved Oda Sakanosuke. That's why he couldn't help but say a few more words, without expecting a reply from Komaeda Nagito. Now he felt he had confirmed his answer, and had no need to speak further. He fully concentrated on his plan to take Komaeda Nagito's life here in this dangerous game, ensuring he could then find Oda Sakanosuke. After all, he felt that Komaeda Nagito could give him an exciting death, but it still wasn't quite what he wanted. He looked forward even more to a death filled with joy while battling Oda Sakanosuke. The air was damp and cold, the dark clouds hung low, and the rumbling sound heralded yet another downpour. Andre Gi quickly calculated the current distance and how much time he needed to lunge over and break Komai de Nagito's neck, all while predicting any unexpected incidents. Just as he finally decided on a way to kill Komai de Nagito, a foresight flashed before his eyes. Right under Andre Gi's nose, Komai de Nagito, with complete ease, tried to pick up the gun that was just a bit out of reach. But in that moment, Komai de Nagito's legs failed, and he couldn't stand up. Losing balance, his body fell again, with one hand pressing down on his coat. The problem was, when Komai de Nagito threw the backpack full of explosives aside, he'd already taken out the remote control and kept it on himself. So even though the bag rolled away, the remote control hadn't been tossed with it, he'd casually slipped it into his pocket instead. After all, carelessly throwing around random junk wasn't exactly good manners. Yes, that was right. At that moment, Komai de Nagito found himself thinking about proper etiquette again, though that only made him seem even more abnormal. The remote control, of course, was not unprotected. The button had a transparent plastic cover over it. Earlier, when he fell, the cover had already cracked, but since it was in his pocket, no one noticed. Now, when he slipped again, the already broken plastic cover completely shattered, and he pressed the button directly. And so, the scene that played out in Andre Gi's foresight was of Komai de Nagito tripping, his hand pausing on something, and suddenly the bomb detonated, setting off a chain reaction and blowing both of them up. Andre Gi didn't have X-ray vision, so of course, he didn't know what the remote control looked like. In the end, both versions, with or without the protective cover, looked pretty standard. And so, in that instant, Andre Gi completely lost it. You've got to be kidding. Leaving a gun with the safety off in your pocket is one thing, but are you really going to be this careless with the bomb's detonator? Even if you threw away the bomb, couldn't you have discarded the detonator too? And why must it always be like this, with the bomb so conveniently nearby? Can't your ability make a little sense? The odds are just ridiculous. However, frustration aside, stopping it was still the priority. Knowing that foresight didn't take long, as soon as he realized what might happen, Andre Gi planned to immediately lunge over and break Komai de Nagito's neck, stopping this accident from occurring. He quickly analyzed his foresight, confirmed several danger points, and finally found a safe route, moving toward Komai de Nagito with confidence. But, as if fate were playing a cruel joke, when he arrived at Komai de Nagito's side, just in time to twist his arm away from the remote control, even using his own momentum from avoiding an exploding bomb to seize Komai de Nagito by the neck and pin him down. Just as he attempted to crush his windpipe. Suddenly, from the overcast sky came a dazzling lightning strike, instantly igniting the nearby bomb. Impossible. How could this happen? He didn't foresee this. In the midst of this natural phenomenon, so grand and beyond human control, the nearness of the lightning created an instinctive fear, as if awakening a primal terror. Andre Gi's heart almost seemed to freeze for a moment before everything was engulfed in explosions. Andre Gi, only in the moment of his death, understood why he hadn't seen this future. In fact, he had seen it, in the image that appeared to him, that bolt of lightning happened during Komai de Nagito's explosion. But because the intense flash from the explosion blocked his view, he hadn't spotted the lightning in the nearly blinding scene. After all, his foresights were not like a video that could be paused and replayed to see the details. This future hadn't changed until he twisted Komai de Nagito's arm, stopping that foresight from occurring. Thus, the future shifted, from the bomb buried under the mud being detonated by Komai de Nagito to it being set off by the lightning. But by then, the lightning strike had already arrived, the speed of light so fast that the foresight and reality occurred simultaneously before Andre Gi's eyes. In other words, even if he wanted to change the future, there was no way to act. Andre Gi, the leader and the last surviving member of Mimic, died. As a man with a foresight ability, his death was complicated and intricate, but in the end, he died in grand fashion. Meanwhile, as Komai de Nagito descended the mountain, he saw those people who had come, standing on the stone steps, watching as a lightning bolt as thick as an arm struck, followed by an immediate and violent explosion that lit up half the sky. Not good. Someone among those climbing the mountain shouted, "It might trigger a landslide. We should get out of here." Many people shared the same thought, and the once orderly team buzzed with noise, until a calm voice sounded. "Quiet down. Dazai-sama." The people were members of the port mafia. After figuring out the mimic's headquarters, Dazai-Osamu immediately went to Mori Ogai, intending to get rid of trouble for his friend Oda Sakanosuke as soon as possible. But Mori Ogai had delayed him again and again, refusing to let him lead a team there. While Dazai-Osamu argued with Mori Ogai, he grew anxious and checked on Komaeda Nagito's location. Yes, Dazai-Osamu had planted a tracker on Komaeda Nagito. Previously, he had never done anything like that, because Komaeda Nagito's actions were rather predictable. Even when there were surprises, it was all because of accidents. But yesterday, he noticed Komaeda Nagito seemed to be entertaining some dangerous thoughts, and suspected that he intended to get involved with the mimic, so he cautiously placed a tracker on him. It was meant as a precaution, but when Dazai-Osamu checked, his face turned pale. Komaeda Nagito's location was now showing up at the mimic's headquarters in the mountains. "What is it, Dazai-kun?" Mori Ogai asked casually, "Have you found a reason to convince me? I really don't want us to lose too many people from the port mafia, after all, we're short-handed." "I've found it." Dazai-Osamu gritted his teeth, "I want to save my friend." Mori Ogai raised his eyebrows, surprised. "Oh. Does Oda Saku intend to kill someone?" "It's not Oda Saku." Dazai-Osamu coldly showed the tracker's screen to Mori Ogai. "It's Komaeda-kun. He's with Mimic right now." Mori Ogai. At that moment, Mori Ogai even broke into a rare cold sweat. "Can I go now?" Mori Ogai quickly began calculating, weighing the pros and cons, and a few seconds later replied, "You can. I'm also very worried about Komaeda-kun. Please make sure Komaeda-kun comes back safe, alright?" Dazai-Osamu turned and left. Because of what he learned, Mori Ogai couldn't sit still anymore. He felt that something was about to happen, fearing that all his plans were about to be disrupted. Sure enough, not long after, news of a landslide at the Mimic's mountain headquarters reached him. Mori Ogai's first thought was, this must have been Komaeda-kun's doing. Unlike Komaeda Nagito and Andre Gi, who were unfamiliar with each other, Mori Ogai was well aware that Komaeda Nagito was not an ability user. Yet, he dared not underestimate him, treating him as a walking calamity. After all, the impression of that meteor left a deep mark on Mori Ogai's mind. He believed that if Komaeda Nagito wanted, he could bring about a landslide. In fact, based on Komaeda Nagito's usual behavior, Mori Ogai thought that if an apocalypse happened, Komaeda-kun would surely be the last one to die. However, since a landslide is such a large-scale accident, Mori Ogai couldn't help but worry. Would Komaeda Nagito be buried? Though Mori Ogai could be ruthless when plotting against people, he hesitated to reveal Mimic's location to others for Komaeda Nagito's sake. He certainly hoped that his junior would be fine. The probability wasn't high, but just in case, he hoped Dazai-kun would make it in time. If he had refused Dazai-Osamu's request for help earlier, who knows how unlucky he would be now. Due to Komaeda Nagito's unpredictable luck, even Mori Ogai couldn't grasp what the future would hold. There was simply no way to calculate it. What? The skilled business permit? Komaeda-kun's accidents never failed. With such a large scale, probably half of Mimic's members were already down. If everything went smoothly, Komaeda-kun might even be considered a legitimate executive of the port mafia. Naturally, the credit would go to the port mafia. After all, rumors about Dazai-kun and Komaeda-kun from back then had spread widely. If he said so, the special division would believe it. What? He originally wanted to take this opportunity to kick Dazai-Osamu out, disassociate him from the port mafia? As long as they fooled the special division before Dazai-Osamu escaped, obtaining the skilled business permit, Dazai-Osamu's subsequent actions wouldn't matter. As for Komaeda Nagito, even if he were crippled, it wouldn't be an issue. As long as he had a breath left, Mori Ogai could still face Natsume-sensei with a clear conscience. After all, wasn't Yosano Akiko still with Fukuzawa Yukichi? If little junior's in trouble, as his senior, was he supposed to just stand by and watch his junior ruin his life trying to take on a terrorist group? Surely he had to step in, right? Pull Komai Dakun back from near death, restoring him fully. It was practically a win-win. He had picked up a benefit for free. This junior disciple, Natsume-sensei, really chose wisely. Mori Ogai thought contentedly, completely unaware of the blow he was about to face. Regardless of what dreams Mori Ogai had, Dazai Osamu brushed aside the objections, refusing to turn back, even taking the lead to climb the mountain. His hurried demeanor left even the members of the Port Mafia whispering among themselves. The site where lightning struck wasn't far from them. Debris from the mountain clattered down, taking a while to settle. Finally, Dazai Osamu saw the explosion site. Almost instantly, he spotted a human figure. He had been running already, but now he accelerated, sprinting towards that person, praying it wasn't Komai Dakun, even though, deep down, he already knew the answer. After all, lightning wouldn't strike so precisely in an inhabited place. Komai Dakun. Dazai Osamu knelt down on one knee beside the figure, and then, with one hand, threw the corpse aside. Those from the Port Mafia following behind him were dumbfounded. Wait a minute, Komai Dakun. Dazai-sama's rumored partner? Why was Dazai-sama treating his rumored partner's body so roughly? They all stopped in their tracks, not daring to step forward. Wait, there's someone underneath. Upon this sharp observation, the others finally noticed, underneath that body, there was indeed someone else. Komai Dakun. Dazai Osamu's hand trembled slightly as he touched the person's face, too afraid to check their pulse or breathing right away. It was this face, just last night in front of him, that had fallen into a peaceful sleep. He had even carried him back to his room himself. Now he lay quietly, his eyes closed, almost the same as the previous night, as if he would wake up at any moment, smiling and saying he had accidentally fallen asleep. Dazai Osamu extended his hand to feel for a breath. Don't joke around, where's your luck? His voice was hoarse. Is this what you want? To die for Oda Saku's hope? Then what about me? What about letting me use you, like we agreed? Then let me use you. This is so strange. Everyone said that I would die before you. I believe that too. So why are you lying here now? How infuriating. Always saying I'm hope, yet you gave me hope only to take it away. It was you all along. If you really die like this, I will never forgive you. Chapter 78 End.